In this video we're going to talk about the Knights Templar, the wealthiest and most powerful Christian military order in the medieval Europe. They built the first multinational banking system in history, and legends say they were the ones who discovered the Holy Grail that is traditionally thought to be the cup that Jesus used at the Last Supper. You might know the Templars from the best-selling novel The Vinci Code or the game Assassin's Creed. Their rapid growth to prosperity and sudden downfall story has fascinated many historians, and there are tons of myths and speculations around them. The superstition that Friday the 13th to be considered as an unlucky day also comes from the Knights Templar, so if this sounds interesting to you, keep on watching. But just before we dive into it, in this channel I summarize great Japanese books that are full of wisdom, and my passion is to introduce them to the world. So if you're interested on getting knowledge that brings impact to your life, please consider subscribing. Okay, the Knights Templar was founded in Jerusalem in 1119, after the armies of the First Crusade had seized the Holy Land from Muslim rule. The mission was to protect pilgrims that were starting to travel to the Holy Land and guard them from being robbed or killed by paganisms. The French knight Hugues du Payens was the founder along with 8 of his relatives and acquaintances. The order increased to 2,000 members at their peak. Their headquarters was based on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, which was believed to be above the ruins of King Solomon's temple. The order grew rapidly and gained extreme power throughout Western Europe in just 20 years. There were also other military orders founded in the same era, like Order of St. John and Teutonic Order, but none of them had expanded like the Knight Templars did. In 1129, the Templars were officially sanctioned by the Catholic Church, and in 1139 they were given special rights from Pope Innocent II, which allowed the Templars to pass freely through borders, to owe no tax, and to be subjected to no one's authority except the Pope. How were they able to gain such tremendous success in such a short time? That's the biggest mystery of all time, and the reason why it captures people's curiosity. The researchers say the Knights Templar were digging down the Temple Mount to discover something precious from the ruins of King Solomon's temple. What did they find? One of them is said to be the Holy Grail. The legendary Holy Grail is the cup Jesus used to drink from at the Last Supper, and which Joseph used to catch Jesus' blood at the crucifixion. But in the Da Vinci Code, the Holy Grail is defined more dramatically, that Jesus was actually married to Mary Magdalene and had at least one child with her. That Mary Magdalene herself was the Holy Grail because she carried Jesus' blood inside her, and Jesus' descendants are the Holy Blood. In the Da Vinci Code, the Knights Templar are described as the guardian of the Holy Grail and the Holy Bloodline, in that there was a cover-up by the Roman Catholic Church that wanted to preserve their church's authority, not by Jesus' actual bloodline. Another legend on what the Templars found is the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant is a sacred chest that contains the 2 stone tablets that the 10 Commandments are written on. There are also legends and speculations that the Templars found relics such as the pieces of the true cross which Jesus was crucified. Or some say they might have found the genealogy of Jesus' family tree, or the shroud of Jesus, or simply King Solomon's treasure. But regardless of how fishy these legends may sound, there are actually evidence that the Knights Templars were digging a tunnel underground the Temple Mount because the Templars' belongings were found deep down there. In the initial stage of the order, there were only 9 members of the Templar, and researchers say the number shouldn't be enough to protect the pilgrims visiting the Holy Land from attacks in the first place. And so the real secret mission was to dig and find the holy relics. Later on, the Templars were donated a vast extent of land from the French king, and in 1163, Pope Alexander III gave the Templars the special rights of independence and the protection of their property. It's quite natural to think that the king and Pope had already received something in return from the Templars, something big. If you think of the purpose of the crusade, their purpose was to recover the Holy Land, and when you get to the core of this, the ultimate purpose might be to find and recover the Holy Grail and Ark of Covenant. If the Templars were lucky enough to discover this and donate it to the Pope, it would make sense why they were given all the special rights. The truth is unknown, but there would be no good reason why they were treated so exceptional without a really good reason behind. The Templars are also known as building the first multinational banking system. They had the freedom to cross borders, and they used this privilege to issue traveler's checks to the pilgrims and crusades that were visiting the Holy Land. It allowed the pilgrims to deposit assets in their home country and withdraw funds in the Holy Land to make them less attractive targets for the thieves. The Templars took 10% commission fee, which normally was forbidden in that era to take any interest, and was one of the reasons why they could make a fortune along with donations. But the Templars' existence was tied closely to the Crusades' destiny, and the tide began to turn when Jerusalem was recaptured by the Muslims in 1244. The Templars' military base were lost one by one, and when the Crusade ended in 1291, the Templars lost their mission to protect the Holy Land. They still have many businesses running, such as function of a bank to store people's personal values or by employing people at Templars' farm and vineyards. But their privilege started to bring resistance from the people because they no longer had the well-defined mission. And then comes the Friday the 13th. The French King Philip IV had a lot of debt to the Templars because he had inherited an impoverished kingdom from his father. The Templars were declaring to form its own nation in southern France or the island of Cyprus, which threatened King Philip IV. The Templars were already a state within a state. They were wealthy, paid no tax, and had an army that could move freely through borders, but now without a battlefield. And that's what King Philip laid eyes on. On Friday, October 13, 1307, which is the reason why Friday the 13th is known as an unlucky day, the Grand Master of the Templar, Jacques de Molay, and hundreds of French Templars were suddenly arrested and accused of heresy. The Templars had a secret initiation ceremony which is similar to the Freemason, and the king used this to accuse them for false charges like devil worshipping, spitting on the cross, homosexuality, and more. The Templars were trained warriors with iron discipline, so the battle between the king's army spread blood all over the cities. Well, this reminds me of the scene in the movie Star Wars Episode 6 when the Jedi Knights got betrayed and attacked by the Republic and got murdered. Actually, Star Wars was also deeply inspired by the Knights Templar because they were the model of the Jedi Knights. In 1312, the Order of the Templar was officially dissolved by Pope Clement V and the properties were confiscated. In 1314, the Grand Master of the Templar, Jacques de Molay, and the leaders in France were tortured and burned to death. Before Jacques de Molay died, he cursed King Philip IV and Pope Clement V by saying, "Evil will befall on those who have condemned us, and God will avenge our death." Strangely, Pope Clement died only a month later, and King Philip also died in a hunting accident within a year. But there are still questions as to what became of all the tens of thousands of Templars across Europe. Where did they go? And where did the Holy Grail and Holy Relics go? The Templars were either arrested or absorbed into other orders like the Knight Hospitaller, or changed its name to Order of Christ in Portugal. Some say that they took the Holy Grail and treasures on a fleet just before the leaders were arrested in 1307 and escaped to Rosslyn in Scotland. This was the last scene in the Vinci Code, and even though people deny this to be true, it's a quite interesting story. Rosslyn Chapel was built in 1446 by William Sinclair, but has many Templar symbols in it, which brings close relation to the Templars. Some say that the Sinclair family had a marriage relationship with the first Grand Master and founder of the Templar, Hugh de Payens, which makes it natural to think that the doctrine of the Templars and Holy Grail were handed down to the Sinclair family. Well, there are more bizarre speculations like Henry Sinclair, the first Lord of Sinclair, evacuated the Templars to North America. And to back up this theory, they would say that you can see some plants carved in the Rosslyn Chapel like corns and aloe that weren't existent in Scotland and only were in America, and that the piece of true cross was carried with them and lies now under the World Trade Center. Some say that the Twin Towers are a symbol of the two pillars that stood on the entrance of Solomon's Temple. Okay, I admit that this might have possibility to be way off from the truth, but there shouldn't be a single truth to everything. Every history has multiple stories, and depending on which angle you look from it, any story can be true. Especially when there's no clear evidence in archive about the Templars, any bizarre imagination could be worthwhile thinking. The Knights Templar, the rock stars of the medieval Europe, left many puzzles and mysteries to the world. The order founded with just 9 members gained tremendous power and wealth in a short amount of time, and one day they suddenly disappeared from history. This keeps on making the fantasists and myth makers room to think of creative stories on what might have happened, and this keeps on fascinating people in any era. Thank you for watching. In this channel, I summarize great Japanese business and self-development books. And yes, I know you might be thinking why I'm reading a Japanese book about the Knights Templar. For the people living in Europe, this might be common sense, but in Japan, the stories of the Knights Templar aren't that famous, and I was personally fascinated in the story by reading the 2 books written in the description. If you like this video, please click the like button and also smash that subscribe button on the bottom right corner so that you don't miss the next videos coming up. Question of the day: which do you think had the justice on their side, the Templars or King Philip IV? Please post your comments below because I would love to hear your opinions. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye bye.